We have a ton of rain in our forecast coming up, and so I took today as the last sunny day we had to get out and get a little bit of decorating done in this little arbor area. I'll also share a little bit of behind the scenes of how we turned this old barn door into a new gate under an arbor, and how I added a few fall touches to make it perfect for this season. If you like fall decorating and you love farmhouse and vintage style, then stick around. So let's get started. So here is a little bit of a before of what we're working with. The space just had an iron gate and we're replacing that. I'll put that at the end of this video for anybody interested. I did start off by painting these little benches. We had two of these benches sitting around forever, never really found a good home for them, and they were the right size for this space. So I started off by painting them both to match in this beautiful green color. It's actually porch paint, which I think is a great idea for painting outdoor furniture. It will last a lot longer, and it is the color that is on our porch actually. And if you do want to paint something a color that goes with a lot of seasons, green of most any shade is a perfect choice. Per usual, Bailey wanted to help. He shredded cardboard almost the whole time, so that kept him occupied, and shockingly, he didn't get an ounce of green paint on him that I could tell. So he's just cute, and he provides some extra entertainment and good company. I did end up doing 2 good coats just to make sure they're well protected, and I didn't show you the other one, but I did paint the other one to match. First up, I put this large metal pumpkin on the black door. You can see the door finished here. I just took the stake part off of it, and it had a little hook that I hung on there. So I felt like it was a fun pop of color and a good centerpiece on this door. Now I'm just cleaning off the space because it needed it. We will be putting a little bit of an awning over the top of this, but for now I'm just gonna sweep out the leaves. Next up come the benches that I painted. So these turned out so fun. I love this color, and it really is a pop against the wood and the black. I really just hunted around our property and all the nooks and crannies to see what I could find. These benches just never found the right spot, and they kept getting shuffled around, so I'm so glad we kept them. I love that these fit so perfectly. They really almost look like they were made for this space. Next up on my hunting around the property, I did find these cages that are meant to go inside of planters. I do like that they created some height and texture in each corner. The finials on these are wood and they're pretty shabby. I was debating if I wanted to paint them or just leave them as is. What would you do? Next up, I wanted to hang some lanterns in this space that I will just leave up for multiple seasons. I had these from my shop years ago. My mom had been using them for another purpose, and then they just got shuffled again to a space that they weren't being used any longer. So they had been repainted black, which was fine. They probably need a little touch up, and I just liked the look of them and the size. If you wanted to be technical about it, you could totally measure it, but I just eyeballed it because the area was so small and I think it turned out fine. So, up to you. Anyway, let's go ahead and fast forward through this and get these lanterns hung. Alright, next up is the one on the right, and basically just did the same thing. I gave it a little bit of an eyeball to see that it matched up on the side. I decided to add some real candles in jars, and I actually lit them at night. They were so pretty, and I will show that at the end. In the long run, for safety, I probably will end up using battery-powered ones, but for now, they were so pretty, I had to do it. Next up, I added a couple of faux pumpkins just for some more color and to tie in the pumpkin on the door. wanted to add some texture and disguise some of the base of those cages. So I wanted some vases, couldn't find any that were small enough. So I opted for these ball jars, which I kind of think fits the theme. I tried finding some floral that might fit in those jars and fill the space properly, but then I saw these wheat branches, or I'm not even sure what they are, but they look like wheat. They are so pretty, the perfect color, and they fit the fall theme. So my dad was actually going to cut them all down because it's just that time of year and they're looking a little shabby. So I picked through, found some good ones, and I feel like they were the perfect addition to this space. It just goes to show you don't have to spend money to decorate. Again, I'm looking for a little bit more texture and a little bit more variety in color, so I wanted to hide or disguise the ball jar a little bit by adding some ribbon and a bow. So it also disguises a little bit of the stems of the, I'm calling them wheat, whatever they are. Anyway, I'm just doing something very simple, wrapping it around the mouth, tying a very simple bow. I take 2 loops, wrap them around each other. Cut the length to match on both sides of the tail. If you're cutting wire edged ribbon, it will totally ruin them. So these are just kind of my junky scissors. Then I fold it in half and I cut it at an angle to create that little fishtail effect. If you don't want to be that fancy, you can just cut it at an angle, and then here I just fluff it up to make it look appropriate. I would recommend outdoor ribbon if you can in a space like this, but I had what I had. Not sure if it is or not, and we'll find out soon. So here I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I went pretty symmetrical with this space. It just felt right, and but because it's basically the same process, I'll go ahead and speed through this as well. Next up, I wanted to add some interest on each side, so I found these old windows laying around. Again, just hunted around the property. I thought I would show you a little bit of how we hung them. Just put 2 L brackets on the bottom that were about the same width, or depth I should say, as the window. Had to recruit an extra set of hands, so thankfully my dad was able to work on this with me today. Here you can see where we're adding this one on the top. We then measured down from the top the length of the window, and then it fit perfectly. I tried my hand at installing the second one, and he supervised. I think I did okay. It wasn't that hard. I think these windows were a great addition, and they added the extra character that this space needed. So here it is. It's very small space, but it's a fun little pop of fall for the season. And I really love how it turned out. I hope you do too. Now on to the door/gate.
What? What?
reminder of what we're working with here. The gazebo in this picture was partially finished and reinforced because it was getting really shabby. Here is the door beforehand. Obviously needs a lot of work. It's over 100 years old. Here's a quick look at some of the tools that he used. There was definitely a lot of sanding involved. He used an orbital sander here and then chipped away at some of the high spots in order to make a smooth surface for repaint. If you ever have refinished or restored a piece, you know how intensive this can be and requires a lot of patience, but it can turn out really great, and it's a fun way to repurpose things that you can find for a much better deal, and that has a lot more character. He did use a heating gun on some spots just to really get the high spots level. You're really looking for just as smooth a surface as possible. It's not going to be perfect. Again, it's almost 100 years old or around there. You can see here that the bottom was really, really rough, so he did end up having to cut this off. He couldn't replace it. It was too disintegrated. Besides that, it was already really tall, and it wasn't a big deal to cut it down a little bit for the space. He did end up removing a lot of the trim work that was either rotted through or just falling apart. He used these tools here. You want to make sure you're gentle about how you're doing it. You don't want to split any of the good pieces and save the wood as best as possible. He was able to get most of the pieces off pretty easily, and then he used the straight edge to draw a line where he wanted to cut off the base for the correct height in the arbor. And may I just give a warning that you should be very careful when using power tools. This is something he's done for years, but it is not to be used lightly. And I talk like I know what I'm talking about. My dad actually did this project. I've done enough refinishing in the past and watched him do it, so I do speak from a little bit of experience. But this was definitely all him, and he gets the credit for how well this turned out. He was not able to salvage all the hardware, but you can see how cool and old some of these pieces were. He did find some large cast iron pieces that worked well for it and was able to replace them and kind of keep that similar look. I didn't get any footage of him painting the door. It is an exterior black gloss. Swing door on the side for the hoses and outdoor equipment that just sits around, and I think that was a great little addition. So smart. And now that it's evening, let's light those candles and see what it looks like after dark. Alright, you guys, that's it for today. I'm glad I snuck out here and took advantage of this beautiful weather. Hopefully it encouraged you to decorate a little bit for fall before the season's over. If you enjoyed this content and you like farmhouse, vintage, or antique style, and you also love doing it on a budget and being creative about what you do, then I would encourage you to subscribe, like, and hit that notification button so you don't miss future episodes. And now that the rain's coming, I need to start thinking about the indoors. So until next time.